This $500 million room disappeared without a trace. In the winter of 1941, somewhere inside a Russian palace outside St. Petersburg, a team of German soldiers packed away one of the most valuable rooms ever built by human hands. 6 tons of amber, gold leaf, mirrors that had reflected the faces of czars for 2 centuries. Within 72 hours, it would vanish. Not damaged, not destroyed, vanished. And 85 years later, despite the largest treasure hunt in modern history, despite submarines, mine shafts, secret bunkers, and men who died searching for it, no one has ever found so much as a single amber panel. This is the story of the Amber Room. And by the end of it, you will understand why treasure hunters call it cursed, why the KGB spent decades trying to find it, and why the last person known to have seen it disappeared just as completely as the room itself. To understand how something this valuable could simply cease to exist, you have to go back to 1701, to the court of a Prussian king obsessed with amber, a material so rare that gram for gram, it was worth more than gold.
King Friedrich I commissioned a chamber built entirely from it. Carved panels backed with gold leaf, semi-precious stones inlaid into elaborate mosaics, mirrors positioned to multiply candlelight into an amber glow that visitors described as stepping inside the sun itself. The room took years to complete. And then, in 1716, in a gesture meant to seal a military alliance against Sweden, the King of Prussia gave the entire chamber away as a gift to Russia's Peter the Great. 6 tons of amber, crated and shipped hundreds of miles, reassembled inside the Catherine Palace, and expanded over the following decades until it covered more than 180 square feet and was valued in today's money at well over $500 million. For 2 centuries, the Amber Room sat at the heart of Russian imperial life. Diplomats were received inside it. Tsars held private audiences beneath its glow. It became known simply as the 8th wonder of the world. And then, in June of 1941, Adolf Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union, and the room's fate changed forever. Here is where the story turns strange. As German forces advanced toward Leningrad, curators at the Catherine Palace tried to save the Amber Room the way they'd saved other treasures, by dismantling it and hiding the pieces. But when they attempted to remove the amber panels, the material had grown so brittle over 2 centuries that it began to crack and crumble at the slightest touch. There was no time and no way to safely move it.
In desperation, the curators did the only thing they could. They covered the entire room in plain wallpaper, hoping the invading army wouldn't realize what was hidden underneath. It didn't work. German soldiers found it within days. And what happened next tells you everything about how highly this room was valued. Hitler's regime didn't just steal it. They sent in a special unit of art historians and packing experts, men trained specifically to identify and extract cultural treasures from occupied territory. Under their supervision, the entire Amber Room was carefully dismantled, crated in 30 separate wooden boxes, and shipped by rail to Königsberg Castle in East Prussia, modern-day Kaliningrad, Russia's isolated territory wedged between Poland and Lithuania. For 2 years, the Amber Room was reassembled and put on display inside Königsberg Castle. Then, in 1944, as Allied bombing campaigns intensified and the war turned decisively against Germany, the castle's director gave an order to dismantle the room once again, to crate it up and move it somewhere safer. And this is the exact moment the trail goes cold. Because in August of 1944, British bombers reduced much of Königsberg Castle to rubble. Soviet troops captured the city in early 1945, and when they searched the ruins of the castle for the Amber Room, they found nothing. No crates, no panels, no trace it had ever been there at all. So where did it go? For the next 8 decades, that single question would consume historians, treasure hunters, journalists,
and at least one government intelligence agency, because the man who gave the final order to move the Amber Room, Königsberg's Nazi museum director Alfred Rode, died under circumstances almost as mysterious as the treasure itself. Soviet investigators tracked him down after the war, intending to interrogate him about where the room had gone. Before they could get real answers, Rode and his wife were dead, officially of typhoid, within days of each other.
With no other reported cases in the area, skeptics have long suspected the couple was silenced. By whom and why remains one of the case's darkest open questions. With Rode gone, investigators were left chasing theories instead of facts, and the theories that emerged over the following decades range from plausible to almost unbelievable. The most widely accepted theory holds that the crated Amber Room was loaded onto a ship
As part of the Nazi evacuation of East Prussia in early 1945, and that ship never reached its destination. Several vessels fleeing Königsberg by sea were sunk by Soviet submarines in the freezing waters of the Baltic, including the Wilhelm Gustloff, which remains the deadliest maritime disaster in history, claiming more lives than the Titanic and Lusitania combined. If the Amber Room was aboard one of these ships, it may be sitting on the floor of the Baltic Sea at this very moment, inside a wreck too dangerous and too deep for full excavation. A second theory places the crates not on a ship, but underground. Königsberg sat above a sprawling network of tunnels, bunkers, and abandoned mine shafts, and multiple witnesses claim to have seen crates matching the Amber Room's description being moved into one of these underground complexes in the war's final chaotic weeks. Soviet and later Russian search teams spent years excavating specific bunkers based on these leads, occasionally finding fragments of amber decoration, enough to suggest they were close, never enough to prove they'd found the room itself. A third theory is darker still, and it involves East Germany's secret police. Some researchers believe communist officials located the Amber Room decades after the war, quietly sold pieces of it on the black market to fund intelligence operations, and buried the story along with the evidence. This theory gained unexpected traction in 1997 when German police, acting on a tip, recovered a single mosaic panel from the Amber Room in the possession of a private seller in Bremen, the first authenticated piece to resurface since 1945. The seller claimed his father, a soldier, had taken it home as a souvenir. It was the strongest proof yet that at least fragments of the room had survived the war. But it also raised an unsettling question. If one piece survived in someone's living room for 50 years, how much of the rest might still be out there, quietly hidden, waiting to be found? The search for the Amber Room became something close to an obsession for the people who pursued it. Treasure hunters funded private expeditions into collapsed mine shafts. Documentary crews spent months excavating suspected bunker sites. In 2008, a group of German researchers claimed ground-penetrating radar had detected a hidden chamber beneath a hillside near the Czech border.
The excitement lasted for weeks before excavation revealed nothing but empty rock. In 2016, another expedition believed they'd located a buried Nazi train, rumored to be loaded with looted treasure, including, possibly, the Amber Room. Poland's government took the claim seriously enough to send an official survey team. What they found was solid rock. No train, no treasure, no answers. And this is the part of the story that keeps the search alive even now. Multiple people connected to Amber Room expeditions have died or disappeared under strange circumstances. A German researcher who spent years chasing leads in Kaliningrad died suddenly before publishing his final findings. A treasure hunter who claimed to have pinpointed the room's location in a Bavarian cave system vanished mid-search, his equipment found abandoned. None of this proves a conspiracy. People die and expeditions fail for mundane reasons more often than sinister ones. But when a case already involves Nazi looting, Cold War secrecy, and a missing museum director who died right before he could talk, even ordinary misfortune
starts to look like something else. Faced with the possibility that the original might never be recovered, the Soviet Union made an extraordinary decision in 1979.
They would rebuild the Amber Room from scratch, using historical photographs, the only survival visual record, since the room itself had never been properly filmed in color. A team of Russian craftsmen began the painstaking work of recreating all 6 tons of amber panels by hand. The project outlived the Soviet Union itself. It took 24 years, cost over $11 million, and wasn't finished until 2003, when the reconstructed Amber Room was unveiled inside the Catherine Palace to mark the 300th anniversary of St. Petersburg's founding. Today, visitors can walk into that reconstructed room and stand in the same golden glow that once surrounded czars and Nazi officers alike. It is, by every account, breathtaking. But it is also, unmistakably, a replica. An admission that the real Amber Room, the one crated up in 1944 and last seen inside a doomed castle, is still out there somewhere. Or gone forever, and no one alive knows which. So where does that leave us? 85 years of searching, sunken ships never fully explored, bunkers still unopened, a single recovered panel that proves survival but reveals nothing about location. Every few years, a new expedition announces they're close, generates headlines for a few weeks, and then goes quiet because they found nothing, or because, some suspect, they found something they chose not to share. The Amber Room has become less a missing object and more a mirror for everyone who searches for it. A test of how far people will go, how much they'll spend,
and how many years they'll dedicate chasing something that may have been destroyed in a bombing raid on an August night in 1944, reduced to ash before anyone thought to ask where it had gone. Maybe that's the most unsettling possibility of all. Not that the Amber Room is hidden somewhere, waiting to be found, but that there was never anything left to find. That the greatest treasure hunt of the modern era has been chasing a shadow for 85 years. Until someone proves otherwise, in a collapsed mine shaft, a sunken hull in the Baltic, or a stranger's attic somewhere in Germany, the Amber Room remains exactly what it's been since 1944. History's most valuable unanswered question. If this journey changed the way you see the ancient world, there are countless more forgotten cities, lost civilizations, and remarkable discoveries waiting to be explored. Subscribe to Chronovan, where history is reconstructed with archaeology, science, and cinematic storytelling, bringing the past back to life, one forgotten world at a time.